Hi BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and first and foremost, this video is going to be a review of a book I just finished. And then I also wanted to, before I do that though, I also wanted to tell you about the books I just literally just bought today. I've been wanting to go to the bookstore, and also we experienced a loss recently, and going to the bookstore kind of, makes me feel a little bit better. So, I just wanted to get out of the house. So I asked my dad, and I figured he would want to get out of the house too, even if it was only for a little bit. So he agreed to take me, and I'm still doing the whole buying different copies of books that I already have because I prefer these editions over the ones I have. In other words, I have a lot. I'm particularly with the bigger books. I would rather have a paperback copy. If it's a small hardback, then I don't mind it as much. And then also, if it's gonna be a while, if it's a new release, if it's still kind of new and it's gonna be a while before I get access to the paperback, I also will just keep it. Like Rule of Wolves I got for my birthday earlier this year, so I'm gonna just it's gonna be a while before there's a paperback. And then if it's a mass market, I'm not as big. Mass markets are kind of cute and all, but they're also they're easy to travel with and cheap. But as I've said this before, I think I said in one of my earlier videos from last month or earlier this month, that even my mom agreed that just buy a regular size paperback instead of the mass markets, because the print is minuscule and the material it's made of is a little more fragile. I like to take books to the pool, or I like to eat. I will sometimes eat and drink. I know that's how could I eat and drink while I'm reading a book? But I could damage the book. But I'm one of those people that actually doesn't unless it's something where it's just really hard. If I'm eating a full-on meal, then it's a lot harder for me to read a book. I've tried to do that. But if it's something you can just hold with your hand or pick up with your fingers, then that's when I'll eat. Or even sometimes when I'm just using a spoon. So I got Phantom of the Opera. Now this is a book that I recently had a hardback copy of a yellow book. It wasn't that pretty. It wasn't even a pretty yellow. It was like a old faded kind of yellow. And then I had started reading the first chapter, and then I was like, I'm not interested in this. But then, I know that Emmy from Emmy Reads, or I don't know I think her channel is just actually Emmy. But I know this is one of her favorite classics. So I decided to give it another shot, and I bought a copy. And the only copy at the roast office was that mass market one that the cover is black and it has the mask on it with the rose and everything. Which actually my theater teacher back in the day, when I was in high school, had that copy of the book. And I remember looking at it briefly, because I was familiar, and I was kind of surprised I didn't realize it was a book at the time. So, but like I said, it's a mass market, and I've come to not like mass markets anymore. They're cute and all, but I don't like them. So I have been wanting to buy another copy, and the good news is, this is cheap. I did look at it. There was a hardback one that didn't have a dust jacket on that was really pretty, and I almost bought that because it wasn't too expensive. It wasn't like $20 or $30. It was close to $20. It was $19.97. So, but I was like, I'm trying to limit how much I spend each month. I gave myself a spending limit of $75 per month. So and I've already bought books this month. So I had decided, I'm kind of close when I added up how much I spent so far this month on buying books. So I might only be able to buy, if I go to the store one more time this month, then I might only get one book. But anyway, so, but this one is, I took off the price sticker, but it's $5.97. Or, $5.97. This is on the clearance rack. These editions are really cheap, and I do still like them, but there are other editions I kind of prefer. But I figured, first of all, this is cheap. It's still not, I still like these kinds of covers. And I don't know if I'll absolutely love this book. I mean, I love the musical, so I probably will. I just didn't give it enough of a shot the first time. Because, I mean, really, I only read like a couple pages, maybe even a chapter, maybe got through a chapter, so it was kind of lame, but it's like, I was feeling like, okay, I gotta slowly unhaul books, so I was feeling a little bit of pressure, the little bit of guilty feelings I get when my shelves are looking full like they are right now. And I still have space on that new shelf that my dad made for me, last year, I think he made it. Either then or earlier this year, I don't remember. So I still have a good amount of room on that one, but I don't want it to get all the way full. I still want to have room. But it's gotten back to the point of being like really hard to get rid of books. So, so I got it, and it was like, and also I was kind of like, I was struggling. I mean, the good news is my dad was like, text me and say, I'm on my way. So it's like, okay, I'm going to get the books. I'm going to get these books. But it was between this one and a couple other ones. Like I have a hardback copy of the first book in the Systems Divine series, which is a Les Mis retelling. And they had one copy of the paperback version of the first book. And I almost bought that. But it was $13.99, almost $14 probably. And, the other book that I was like determined to buy, that I'm going to show you in a minute, was like, I really want to get this one, so you know what? I'm just going to get the cheap book, which is this one. I almost bought that one. And of course, what's probably going to happen is, but next time I go back, it's going to be gone. That always seems to happen. Like, I kept putting off buying Sons and Lovers because I wanted to buy that one too. I have a mass market copy of that one as well, Sons and Lovers by D.H. Lawrence, and I kept putting it off, buying it, and finally, I was like, I'm gonna get it this time, and then I go there and it's gone, and they don't even have any other copies. There is one D.H. Lawrence book that they have, which is, I think it's called A Woman in Love. They have that one, but I wanted Sons and Lovers, so I just told myself, you know what, it's okay, because it means I don't have to, choose between Phantom and that one. So, that was another option, and they did not have that option. And, I figured, what, it's almost October, October will be in a month, meaning, and I'm saying a month because it's almost September. Like, we got, I think, 2 or 3 more weeks. 2 more weeks, I think, in August. So I chose this one. I still like these. I still love these. Just sometimes there are other editions of classics that are a little prettier. Okay, so I got that. And then the other one I picked up, the one I was like, this time I'm going to buy this book. It was either this one or one of the author's other books. And the other one is a little bit more expensive. And that was a situation where I have a hardback and I wanted to get a paperback. So maybe I'll get that one next time, or maybe I'll get, the System Divine book, it's called something in Stars. I don't remember, Sky Without Stars, that's what it's called. Sky Without Stars. That's the first book. And it's weird because our store, Our Books Mine, has the third book, but I didn't see the second one there. I didn't see any copies of the second one there, but they have the third book, so I thought that was kind of weird. But anyway, that's The Stand. So I have a mass market of this one, and I hadn't picked it up in a while, but I have been wanting to get back to it. And like this one is basically, it's actually one of I was watching an interview with him on Stephen Colbert, because his book Summer of Something or Summer Something, it's his newest book, just came out. And Colbert asked him, what are your top favorite books of your own books? Because everybody, and if you're a Stephen King fan, you have at least, you have your favorites. And this was one of them. This is one of his favorite books he's written. And also, I think he also talked about that it was difficult to write this one and he had to take a break from it. I think it was this one. It might have been a different one. But anyway, this is basically a story of where there's a virus that has mutated and has taken over, has killed half the population, and so all the population, the ones that are remaining, are slowly accumulating, coming together, going to different, trying to find a safe location where there are people still alive. And there's this evil, there's one guy who's kind of represents evil, then he's slowly gathering followers, and there's a woman who's a healer, and she's also gathering people to defeat the other guy, the bad guy. And they had a mini-series from back in the day, which I have a copy of. I just haven't watched it because I wanted to read the book. Of course, I don't know why. I may as well just watch it because this book is gonna just gonna take me forever. This is like over 1,000 pages, and also it's the complete and uncut edition, which I'm so glad that it's that one, because I want the uncut and complete edition of it. But I ended up buying a copy of the miniseries from Walmart, and then they are recently remaking it. Again, I don't know if it's going to be a miniseries or a TV series, but it's Eric is the character name. The guy from True Blood, Stellan Skarsgård's son, who played he played Eric on True Blood, the TV show, and then he's gonna be in it. He's gonna be the bad guy, and then Whoopi Goldberg, I think, is the woman, the healer. And then there's, I think, James Marsden, I think, is gonna be in it. Yeah, James, because Jason is the other guy. I always get James and Jason mixed up, but they're not related, by the way. I remember looking that up one time. I'm trying to think of who else is in it. I mean, it's a big cast, so I don't know all the actors that are involved in it. But yeah, I wanted to get a bigger size copy, so I picked it up. And the ink's not too bad. It has a very dark ink to it, and which I'm wondering, I wonder if this is based on the cover of from the mini-series. Because this does not look like the guy who played Eric. So I'm wondering if this is from the mini-series. The original mini-series. So, but this was $18. And that's not counting tax. And then, and let me go ahead and remind you what this one is about. In case you don't know, this is a classic. And there's a haunted opera house, and by this famous opera ghost, and this young ingenue is being taught by the opera ghost without her realizing it. And he becomes obsessed with her. But she has another suitor from her childhood who shows up. And she also gets her chance, even though normally she's a chorus girl, she finally gets the chance to perform and be the star of their latest opera. Which I wanted to go because I have been to France, and I did go to Paris. My sister studied abroad in France, in the south of France. But by the time we didn't really get any time, before we left to go back to the south, to go where my sister was staying. And then by the time we go back, it was already closed. So I never got a chance to see the Opera House, but I would love to go there one day. But yeah, so I just wanted to, in case you don't know what that's about. Okay, now let's get to the main part of the video, which is the review of The Clockmaker's Daughter. So I am a huge fan of Kate Morton and her work. So far I've loved all of her novels. And I don't know why it took me so long to read this. It took me a while to get around to buying the book. Like, first it was like I'm waiting for the paperback, or I kept going back and forth because I did love the whole clock face cover of the hardback. And now, of course, there are paperback copies with the clock face cover. And it's like, really? And because, I mean, it's not like this is not like with the mass market where I want a different copy, because there's nothing wrong with this copy and I like it. And also now I probably can't get rid of it because I highlighted stuff in this because there were words I didn't know that I wanted to look up. But finally got around to it, reading it earlier this month, and I loved it. Surprise, surprise, if you know me. Although most people probably don't. Actually, come to think of it, most people probably don't know how much I love Kate Morton's works. But in this one, like all of her novels, it has multiple timelines. This one has quite a few timelines, kind of like how Forgotten Garden had multiple timelines. This one goes from, well, it starts out in 2017, and then which all of her books start out with them in the modern time period, and then you have a modern day female lead who is trying to figure out something happened in the past, and she has found something that something from that time period, and slowly tries to piece it together and figure out what happened all those years ago. So the first past timeline starts in 1862, and then you go from between 1862 and the 1928, then World War II, and then and then there's also a brief time we spent a little bit after 1928. And then you go World War II, and then after that you get back to 2017. So our main character from 2017 is Elodie Winslow, and she's an archivist in London. And while going through the archive, she discovers a box that contains a satchel, an artist's satchel, and this picture of this beautiful woman. And it turns out that the satchel belonged to the artist Edward Ratcliffe, and the woman is Lily Millington. And it turns out she was the model for Edward, and they were also lovers. But then one day he takes her to Birchwood Manor, which is this house he fell in love with. It's a country house. It's beautiful. It has so many, secrets and secret doors, passages. Such a beautiful, magical house that he's enchanted by. And he had this strange, terrifying encounter when he was a kid, and that's when he found this house. So years later, as an adult or a young man, he buys the house, and he ends up taking Lily and some of his other artist friends, like Thurston Holmes, who's an arrogant dick, and a photographer, and I think that's it. And their models come too. And there's a bit of a love triangle between Thurston and Edward. And unfortunately, Edward is also engaged to a woman he's not in love with, but it was kind of they were both rich, and it was kind of a pressure to be engaged to her and everything, but he's starting to fall in love with Lily. And we also find out that Lily, that's not her real name, and she was a thief. She was a thief and a bit of a con artist, and that she one day, when trying to do a job, she bumps into Edward, and they lock eyes, and it's almost love at first sight, almost. And she ends up and she tells kind of the woman her caretaker, who pretends to be her mom, and sees, oh, he's a rich guy, and that means money and stuff. And we also learn in 1862 that she made friends with this young boy during when she was on the run from getting caught, and she sneaks into his house. He protects her from being found out. And his name is Pale Joe, or that's what she calls him. And they become friends. And then we get to something terrible happened. We get to a point where something terrible happened while they were at Birchwood. And that led to a tragedy where someone died. And so when we get to 1928, we see the timeline of 1928 where we meet this young man named Leonard. And I almost want to call him Leonard Bast, but no. It's not the character from Howard's End. But Leonard, who is a writer, and he discovers the house and falls in love with it as well, and wants to write about and wants to research it and learn all about the house. And he discovers that the owner of the house presently is Lucy Radcliffe, Edward's sister, his sister, who is the last remaining family member of the family still alive, and that she hopes to make Birchwood Manor into a school for young girls, because especially so they can get an education, as she herself is a very smart woman. She loves knowledge, and she wants to be a scientist or an archaeologist. And so she wants girls to not just to be housewives and sew and cook and clean and make babies. She wants them to actually get an education. So she tries to make this a school to provide that for young girls. And she offers to be Leonard's source for information so he can write a book. But she wishes to remain anonymous. And then you have a World War II story where this woman, Juliet, is taking her 4 children to the Birchwood Manor as well, and this is also connected to, and this woman is related to Elodie, but she doesn't know that. So this is, first of all, there's something magical about Kate Mullen's writing. It's so beautiful, and, it's still relaxing and comforting to read her books, just getting lost in them. And I think that's also something about historical fiction as well, because I've read a few other historical fiction books, and they've all, it's, despite the fact that it's not, her writing is very different from Jane Austen's, it makes you feel a little bit like reading a Jane Austen novel, the same kind of warm, fuzzy feelings. And another thing I noticed is that, actually her real name is Birdie, I believe. Birdie, aka Lily Millington. Her plot kind of reminded me of Oliver Twist, so there's a little bit of a Dickensianness to this book as well. So, it's just, her writing is very relaxing, and, and I like that it's not just some police procedural or detective mystery. It's just a regular mystery of a regular person that doesn't have any detective skills. She's not, she's going through stuff and and calling people that she knows that might help her find the answer she's looking for, and there's no, detective work or anything, or at least it's amateur detective work, and that's what I like. Because sometimes, for me personally, a detective story can get bogged down for me when it comes to, police procedural stuff, and, I don't mind watching that kind of stuff. I'll watch it. So, every time on the break room when they have, one of those crime shows on, I just kind of roll my eyes. It's can we watch something else? Not that it matters, because I'm only in there for 15 minutes, maybe even less than that, because it takes me a few minutes to get in the back, unless I speed walk or run to get back there, which I always try to do so I have a little bit more time. It doesn't, sometimes I'm just really, why do we have to watch this? But anyway, so I like that it's still a mystery, but it's not like a detective story. It's more just a woman trying to piece together the past and trying to understand what happened and give anyone that's left that is connected to the mystery of the past, give them closure. Or, like, at least reveal, even if no one is left, no one is alive that is connected to the past, at least, she can reveal the truth of what happened. Because, of course, there is something that happens where things are misinterpreted, and someone gets blamed for something they didn't do, and only certain people know the truth. And I don't think anyone from anyone that's connected, except for there is one person that's sort of connected, but not necessarily connected directly to the very first event that happened at Birchwood with Edward and Lily or Bertie, I should say, and and his fiance and all those people. Let's see what else. I feel like all these, and what is interesting, I feel like what truly connects all these people is that they all experience love and loss. I feel like this book, that's what this book is all about: love and loss, in beauty, finding beauty in the world, especially during hard times, and when there are ugly people in the world, finding love and beauty, and just trying to find your little place of peace, your little peaceful, your place that you can call home, or something, peace. I can't think of a better word, I think that's it. I don't know what else to say about this. I just really love this book, and I love Kate Morton and reading her books, and they're all very. Oh, and also, I forgot. There's one more timeline that is about this little girl named Ada, who is from India and comes to Birchwood when Lucy made it into a school, and something also during her time there, tragedy also struck as well. But this is just, it's very sad and tragic, but it's also hopeful, and it definitely feels like there's closure by the end of the book. And also, Aloni's timeline is kind of interesting. It's not as interesting as the stuff that happened in the past, but her personal story is interesting. She's engaged to a guy that she's not sure if she still, truly loves him. And what makes it harder, what makes it even worse, is that her mom, who died when she was little, she was this famous celloist, and both she and her father are still grieving that loss. And her boyfriend, who's now her fiance, him and his mom are like, oh, you should play a tape of one of your mom's work, her music for the when you're walking down the aisle and stuff, and that way we won't have to hire a band or anything. And at first she's pretty willing, but you start to realize that maybe she's not so comfortable with this, and the only reason she's going along with it, she's a bit of a pushover, and she thinks she loves this guy, so she's going along with it. And also his mom is very domineering, very much one of those people. I mean, you don't get a lot of her future mother-in-law, but you do get the impression that she's not someone who will, guilt trip you into doing something, and will, be like, if you don't, she'll get mad at you and pitch a hissy fit if you don't do things her way. Granted, there's only a little bit, so you only get a little bit of her, but that's the impression I get from the little bit of information we learn about his mom. Her fiance's mom. And she's still struggling, and this woman is her mother. That's what she knows her. She doesn't know her as the famous celloist Lauren Adler. She just knows her as her mother. And, everyone else is in her, in her face about it. It's like, oh, your mother made such a beautiful music. She was such a lovely woman. And, she says something about how she was never my mother. She was always Lauren Adler. And it kind of broke my heart a little bit that people just were all like, I mean, granted, I also was thinking about how, like, if I met any of the children of my favorite actors, would I do the same thing to them? And I sometimes wonder if maybe I would, without meaning to. Like, I don't mean to do it. I wouldn't mean to do it on purpose, but maybe because I'm such a fan of the actor, and be like, oh, I loved your dad in this, and he was so great, and there was something about him, and I would just, I think sometimes you can't help it. Like, if you're a fan of someone, then you meet their child, and, you know, you think you have good intentions, and you're being nice, but you're really just, like, you're not being fair to them, because that person was their parent, first and foremost. They didn't care about their talents. They didn't see them as this artist. They saw them as their mom or as their dad. And, you know, I hope I remember that one day when I'm, like, if I ever got a chance to meet, like, Robin Williams' kids, you know, which probably will never happen, but if there's, you know, if I ever do, because actually his daughter Isolde is my age, if I ever get the chance, I should remember what happened in this book and be like, that part of the story, I'm like, okay, she's her own person. She's not, you know, yes, her dad had to be a famous actor who I loved. I was a huge fan of, but that doesn't mean that I need to be like, you know, talk to her only about that. You know, I mean, it's just, but because I felt so bad for her. I felt so bad for Lodi and her experience and how everyone was just in her, you know, in her face about that. And now, I do feel like we didn't really get much closure for that storyline. The storyline just all of a sudden stopped, which I guess the author, Kate Morton, wanted to focus more on the other storylines, the storylines of the past. And we do get sort of an ending, but it kind of leaves it open. It's kind of open-ended. It's like, you know, you can probably guess what happened, or get an idea, or I could even imagine a scene that could, you know, really close off that part of the story. But it kind of left it hanging a little bit. I mean, like I said, I feel like the author wanted to focus more on the past stuff rather than the present day story. And her, you know, that aspect of her story wasn't the main thing. I mean, the main thing was her discovering what happened in the past. But anyway, so I definitely, this is another great one by this lovely author, Kate Morton, and I'm eager to find out what her next book is. I mean, I just, you know, hope she writes more books. I also love that, you know, I love how all of her books take place in England or in Australia. There's a couple, like in the Forgotten Garden, there's a couple, you know, there's a little bit of Australia stuff in there. And I want to say The Secret Keeper might have some Australia aspects as well, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it's so good, and so I guess that's it. Okay, no, that was one word. Just trying to figure out what the word is. I was looking at something that I highlighted, but I'm just bad at finding like quotes and stuff like that. I'm good at finding, you know, like if there's words, and I can make sure I mark it off or at least fold the page. But I'm just really bad at that kind of stuff. I'm finding things and remembering to, you know, acknowledge, like mark them off so that I can look them up later or find them later or recall them later. But yeah, so I'm finally pleased to say that I read this book and of course loved it. And if you are a Kate Morton fan, then definitely I hope you check this book. I hope you've checked this one out, or, you know, if you haven't, please check it out. I would like to one day in the future do a video saying, you know, talking about her books and her work and kind of doing an author chat or whatever. I know that there's some booktubers that will do like videos where they talk about certain authors, and, you know, sometimes like talk about how you should read their books if they have a lot of books. Now, she doesn't have a lot of books out. Yeah, excuse me. I would love to talk about, you know, all of her books. Oh, this is a book club favorite. Her books yeah, her books definitely are books that you could read for like a book club and then discuss them. Um, and they're very cozy and atmospheric, and there's actually in a lot of her books they have like in the back they have a discussion section. So if you ever want to read this for a book club, the back of the book supplies some questions for you. So anyway, so I hope you guys check this book out. And if you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below if you want to see when I post new videos. And I hope you are staying safe and continuing to enjoy your reading. Alright.